Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unprepared. I am Megan, and I am unprepared, as per usual. And today I am joined by some absolutely wonderful people here to play a game about mermaids because this is my show and I just need to be on brand at all times. So we're going to go around and meet all of our wonderful players. So, would you please introduce yourself and your pronouns and tell everybody what your favorite GM-less game is? And we'll go around. And so we'll start. Below me is Sharon. So,
Um, all right. That's a stumper of a question. But first of all, my name is Sharon. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on Twitter with the handle at chew_baka. Um, Goodness. I think I've only played one half of Dialect, but I really enjoyed it. But I haven't had a chance to revisit it so far. But I'm super excited to check out this game too.
well, we love dialect in this house. So, that is very good. Um, all right. And next we have Jason.
Hello, I'm Jason. I'm on Twitter at Jace Levine. Uh, favorite GMless game? I think I have to go with what Megan's gonna know is my obvious answer, and that's Starcross, which I have played here before on the show.
And we played last week.
Yep.
Oh, well, it's a great pick. So obviously, you are valid in choosing that as oh, so good, so good. And last but certainly not least, we have Herc. Herky, what's going on? You are muted. You are you are muted, my friend. There we go.
There we go. Sorry. I'm really good at this, you guys. My name is Herky or Herc. You'll probably hear people call me that a lot. My pronouns are he, him. You can follow me on Twitter at HerkyAvello. Probably shouldn't do that. Dialect is probably my favorite GM-less game, as it's the only one I've played more than once.
Ooh.
So there's that. That's it. I'm happy to be here.
We are very happy to have you here. Let me put this in my audio real quick. And coming background to me, hi, I'm Megan. This is my show. You can find me most places on the internet, Megan Lynn FTW. And I love GMless and prepless games, and I can never choose just one, but if I have to, it is a toss up between Dialect and Starcross, which were the two games mentioned by
Sorry, those are already
everybody else.
taken. You can't take that one.
If those are both taken, then probably next up would be For the Queen, which we've also played here on the show, which is also by Alex Roberts, who designed Starcross. They are an amazing game designer. So I'll say For the Queen then if I can't double up. But so we are here to play this wonderful game called Beak, Feather, and Bone. But we are playing a variant version of it called Tail, Scale, and Bone, which is about the original version. Beak, Feather, and Bone it's a map assignment game about a city of Ravenfolk. Tail, Scale, and Bone is a variation on that using the same map from Beak, Feather, and Bone, but we are a city of merfolk. So we will be designing our city and we will be designing our city based on the factions that we have all chosen who live here and describing the different buildings that exist in this city. And then at the end of the game, we will determine which faction gets to claim the seat of power within the city and then determine what that seat of power is. So, I've got a pupper.
A pupper.
So this game is played in rounds. And the way that it goes is each of us will take turns describing a building within the city, what its purpose is, what it looks like, and what it's like on the inside. And we will just go around in rounds like that as we kind of label these buildings in the city. So to start, we need to choose our seat of power. Now, we're not defining any aspects of this building whatsoever. We are just choosing what building we think will be the seat of power. In our maps, we have this beautiful map. So, does anything hop out to anybody as looking like a seat of power?
Maybe the stadium looking thing?
That's what I was leaning towards
That's
too.
where I was going. That's where my mind went as well. That big guy.
Because it looks like a dome of some sort, which
Yeah.
Oh yeah, vaulted ceilings. Those are imperative in any seat of power.
Oh, exactly. All right, so we will, let me draw a shape around it, but I'm going to make it a color that nobody is. So let's make it orange. All right, so here's our seat of power. That's what we're fighting for. Right, so now that that has been determined, we will start our game. So the way that this game works is it's played with a standard deck of cards. Each round, you draw one card, and depending on what the suit of that card is, determines what the purpose of your building is. And you use that as a jumping off point to define the building and space that you are about to describe. And once you have drawn your card, you will then tell your tail, scale, and bone about your building, which is what people say about it, what it looks like, and what it's like on the inside. So I will go first. So we'll see what I drew. So I drew.
Do you want to talk about your faction too?
Oh, that's right. Let's talk about our factions. So we each chose factions. There is some absolutely wonderful art in both Beak, Feather, and Bone and Tail, Scale, and Bone artwork of these different faction members. So I am going to be playing the Jewelers faction. If we want to go around and say in the same order as intros and say what faction we are all playing.
Okay. I suppose I'm next then. So
Yes.
I'm going to be playing the Sorcerers faction. Definitely picked it 100% on the art from the book, which you cannot see, but they have like a fish head floating over what should be a neck, and I just thought that was really cool. So
it's very cool.
I am going to be playing the Hunters.
And I'm playing the Couriers, who, as of right now, just look like mer people with bags.
So, my first card is the Jack of Hearts, which kind of works out because there's also another rule that involves face cards, and now I don't have to wait to explain that, and we can just dive right in. Pun intended. This is my show. I get to make the bad jokes. This is what you signed up for. So when you draw a face card in Beak, Feather, and Bone, in addition to defining your building, you also will create a rival from one of the other factions, and you will describe this rival, what their reputation is, what they look like, and what their true motivation is. So that will be a little additive once I choose my building and decide what goes there. So hearts. Sorry, chat saying my audio is weird and I don't know why. Um, that's very weird.
I will say that you did sound a little muffled to me too, but I didn't know if that was normal since I haven't played with you in a while.
Huh. Let me see if our wonderful tech person can, our lovely stream dad who's doing tech for us, can take a look at this. So hang on one second. And I'll just try to maybe just keep this close and we'll see. Or maybe I'll turn my fan off. Maybe that's something. I don't know. So
Moving that didn't seem to do anything. Are you sure you're using the right mic?
mm, no.
Yay! Zoom, why do you change my settings? I've literally
That
was your like business mic, right? For work. So your coworkers don't suspect your hobbies.
Yeah, they don't need to know that I have a good mic. So thanks, chat. I don't know why Zoom decided to co-opt my audio, but much better. Here we go. For real this time. So I have drawn the Jack of Hearts. So hearts is a social purpose. So the building that I will be defining in this city is going to be social in nature. So let me take a look at my map. I love this map so much. There's so much potential. Okay, so I think what I am going to pick is I'm gonna choose I know what I'm looking for. I just need to figure out. I'm gonna choose this little cluster of buildings over here. Picking a bunch because I'm allowed.
I see.
Yep. And this is a like a bazaar marketplace type area. And although it is a bazaar marketplace up here, it's really more of like a social gathering place that people will just kind of go there to socialize with one another, and in the purpose is it's much more social in nature than actually like buying and selling goods. It's just kind of and especially amongst the jewelers who are craftsmen and everything revolves around their craft, they spend a lot of time in places like this just kind of interacting amongst themselves and then amongst the other members of the city. So what people say about it, so that's the first part. So people say that it's really lively. It's blustering. There's always a bunch of people there, and it's fairly wide open. It's not like a covered area. It's like just an assortment of stalls and things like that. It's not like contained within one building. It's kind of like a bunch of smaller buildings all together. And it's a place where people would go to kind of hang out, like almost like a mall, like a mer mall. Like you go there to hang out just as much as you would go there to buy stuff.
It's where all the young merfolk hang
It's
out.
all the young mer are just chilling. They're just
Drinking
hanging.
milkshakes.
Yep, at the mer mall. So the appearance, so what it looks like, it's like I said, it's several smaller buildings and stalls. There's one larger building that has like walls, ceiling, like your standard building, but then there's a lot of smaller stalls and areas outside of that people can just show up and shill their wares. So it's very like open air, very like a lot of different bright colors and things like that. It's very much like a bazaar type place. And then the last
thing is, regardless of its appearance or reputation, what is it like on the inside? And what it's like on the inside is it's really like the closest that like the jewelers guild has to like a social club, because they don't have a place where they just go and hang out. They don't have like a faction hall or anything like that, because they all work independently across the city, and they'll have like their own shops and things like that. And but this is a place that is a center of socializing for the city, but also for this faction in particular. So inside the larger building, there is a rather large, like loungy type area, where people can just like hang out and just kind of congregate. So we have our mermall, and now I get to make a rival who does not like my mermall, which just seems wrong. But here we go anyway. So let me think of who. Of course, the hardest part is like, all right, you got to think. I should have pulled up my name generator, because I'm like, now I have to think of this person's name. But so I think, all right, I think that there is a sorcerer who is not a fan of the mermall. And I think that and her name is Coral, because we're just gonna go real baseline generic mermaid.
Why have a theme if you're not going to do anything with it, you know?
You have to commit, it's important.
Yeah.
So Coral is a sorcerer who's a little on the older side and is well known as being like a teacher to like the younger sorcerers and known for being very powerful. And she's not a huge fan that the socializing has moved to a place of commerce, and thinks that it's just kind of wheedling in. So she's not a huge fan of that mixing of socialization and commerce. So so her reputation is that of a very powerful sorcerer. What does she look like? I think she has I think she's a whale mermaid. So I think she has like a tail like a
whale.
I think she has like a humpback whale tail. So it's just like really powerful and real large. And her true motivation is she wants to kind of bring people back to more of like a community type, like bring people back more community focused and more like socializing for socializing's sake, without the need for any bells and whistles or like shops or things like that. She just wants people to like hang out and like be with one another and like experience life the way that it used to be, and then maybe also do magic, who knows.
Not all this mer capitalism.
Yeah, this mer capitalism. There's no place for it here when we can all do when we can do magic instead. Why would you be doing mer capitalism when you could be doing mer magic? And you know what? She's valid. So that's my turn. That's my location and my rival for my location. So I will pass it over to, I think Jason's gonna go next.
Okay.
And I'll pass it over to you.
All right, so I have the 4 of spades. So that is a past purpose. And I am the hunters. Let's see. I'm gonna go with this building here. Oops. So that building it's a museum of hunting trophies.
Ooh.
So all of the best and bravest hunts, the hunters will take trophies from their kills, and keep them there as a way of showing off. Um, what people say about the museum, they generally say that it's sort of outdated, um, and a little bit pompous. The hunters are always showing off their trophies, but most of the population of the city just doesn't care that much. And but it's very important to the hunters. And the scale, the outside of the building, it is a um, large rectangular stone building, um, with, I think the roof there is netting. It's this really intricate old netting, um, that hangs over all of the collection of trophies. And I think, the description of the inside of it is just halls full of, um, skeletons from like triumphant kills of massive sea creatures. You know, some sea creature heads, giant teeth, claws, all sorts of things, just on display, along with the plaques describing who the hunter was that took down the creature and when it happened and the brave battle involved.
Do they do like taxidermy sort of stuff for invertebrates too? Like if there were a kraken or something that they took
Yeah,
down?
definitely. I think, and you just gave me an idea. So I think that up where the netting is, I'm thinking of the Natural History Museum and the whale, but it's like a kraken, like a big giant squid is just like stuffed and hanging up near the netting.
That's amazing. And it would take up like the entire length of the building too, because it's huge.
Yes. And I drew a 4, so I don't have to do a rival.
You do not. Okay. So then we're gonna bounce it over to Sharon.
All right. I have a 9 of hearts, and hearts means it has to be a social purpose. So, and I'm a sorcerer. Oh, maybe this could be what the character you made, like her little den.
Magic club.
For a
Magic
better
club.
way of socializing.
Yeah, right. This is the way it should be. Magic club.
Magic club.
Better than the mermall.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to pick. Oh, wow. Picking a building is a lot harder than I thought. You guys made it look easy.
It's hard when the map is like so cool and there are so many different types of buildings.
Yeah. Okay. I'll pick this thing. All right. Let me freehand this. This building up here on the shelf. Herc, can you help me come up with a oceanic pun for library?
You can't put me on the spot to come up with puns. It's the worst time to come up with them.
Fine. Okay, never mind. It is a magical oceanic public library. But it's mostly, well, that's its official name, but it's mostly like a community hangout spot. So yeah, like in theory, there are books that you could read and you could go and like there are probably like little book clubs that are held there, but it's mostly just kind of like a space for people to hang out with other like-minded arcane tendency people. On the outside, it's kind of it's mostly made out of these like collected pieces of sea glass. So the outside has all these windows that let in light, but because the glass itself has been all like scratched and roughed over by sediment in the ocean, it's like really diffuse and soft. And so it's mostly like sea glass that's kind of like stuck together with other stone. And on the inside, yeah, since it's mostly a communal space, there's like one big space in the middle, and then smaller rooms which have like the different books and like items of magical interest kind of sequestered into like side rooms. It's decorated with a lot of knickknacks that are supposed to like kind of help catch and reflect the light, so the inside looks very colorful and sparkly. um and you do see kind of like on the inside around the big room in the middle, there are little plaques that commemorate the great sorcerers of times past.
Suggestion from chat was Great Barrier Read Public Library.
I like it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's really good. Okay.
So
I'm just
Like-
picturing that Coral is having trouble attracting all the young merfolk to the library when they're all going to the mer ball. Like, come on, we have books. You can study.
I mean, it sounds so good. Like I want to go there.
I would want to go there too, but
Like,
How do
You would-
books exist underwater? We're established that we're underwater, right?
yeah, don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Okay.
It's magic.
They're
the sorcerers can
Who
make
cares?
waterproof books.
Yep. Don't worry about it. That's how. Magic.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, so then I guess it's me.
It's you. What do you got?
Okay, I have the 7 of Clubs, which is a future purpose. I was cheating a little bit and looked at my card, which is good for certain reasons.
That's
That's not
fine.
cheating.
That's
Um,
not cheating.
So I had an idea in mind, I think. Oh, I guess I'm black now. I didn't mean to choose that color, but here we are. I'm choosing this big looking area in the right side of the map, also on top of the shelf that Sharon was talking about. It's a little bit interesting to think of because we're working in a 3D space because we're underwater, so they can kind of go in any direction. But I chose this because it looks like it's almost like a fortification and almost like it's partially built, which is what I'm kind of building this future purpose off of. So for Tail, what do people say about it? I feel like there's a little bit of an ominous tone when people talk about this place, because it's under construction, but it looks like it's going to be very big and very secure. It almost looks like it has walls on this map here, so I envision it to be kind of enclosed in a cage, at least partially for now while it's being constructed. And it looks like it's just like a very big, very secure area. So people who are not couriers are a little bit antsy about it, I think.
Yeah, like what are the couriers shipping around to this planning ship in this building?
Yeah. So I think that covers a little bit of the appearance too. Again, it's not fully built. It's been in process for a little while, but it's got like interwoven cage around the outside with specific openings that have gates that can be closed and locked, and an inner structure that's currently in process. And then on the inside, no one really knows this besides the higher ups and the couriers that are building it. But it is a sense of expansion. They're looking for a place to securely hold and receive cargo from other towns, cities, worlds, potentially, if we're talking about surface people or something like that. It's definitely, it serves a purpose that doesn't particularly interest this town necessarily. I think that's all I got to say about it.
I like it. What are you couriers plotting up there on your shelf?
Like some
Don't
weird
know.
eldritch warehouse. I
Yeah,
just-
really? All right.
I know what faction my rival's going to be from if I ever get a face card.
All right. So round 1, done. Bingo bango. So starting round 2, I have drawn another face card. Just lucky,
Jeez.
I guess. So I have drawn the King of Spades, and spades are a past purpose. So let me take a look at what's going on. I have an idea. So I'm gonna pick this guy up here. That's a horror. That doesn't even cover all of it. So doing it again. Nope, now that covers those things. Don't mind me. All right. So this guy up here in the corner, this was an old diamond mine, an underwater jewel mine that has since been abandoned because it is, at least as far as anybody knows, it's been tapped. There are no more precious gems in this mine, so it just kind of stands there on this upper shelf as a reminder. There may be other currently functioning mines, but I think this is the oldest one. This was the first one that was established in this city. So it's an important place, but it's not a place that is in use anymore, because it's just this abandoned mine. So what people say about it is, because it's me, I think there's like rumors that it's haunted now because it's been so long since anybody has gone in there. So they're like, oh, we hear weird noises coming from the old mine at night. When it's like, yeah, it's the ocean. A lot of things make noise, but who knows? Maybe it is haunted. But people, yeah, so some people say that it's haunted. Some people are just like, yeah, it's just the old mine. It's where, like, that's where we first found diamonds, and now we have other mines because that one is all dried up. From the outside, it just looks like a hole in the side of some rocks. There's some tracks coming out of it for like mine carts, but otherwise it's very nondescript, just like a plain old tunnel going into a hillside. And then on the inside, it's just miles and miles of just tunnels throughout this mountainside, with different lanterns hung around all of it, with cart tracks all throughout. It's definitely seen better days. I think there's a lot of like support beams that have been added throughout the years as they drilled deeper and deeper, looking for diamonds before eventually just abandoning their plan and calling it a loss and setting up new mines. So it just looks like your quintessential like abandoned mine, but it's just underwater. And now I get to make another rival because I just keep drawing cards.
Yay, enemies!
Yay,
Nobody likes the
enemies.
jewelers for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, nobody likes the jewelers, and also I'm not getting any points.
I think
Yep.
it might be that the jewelers don't like other people, though.
Might be.
You're just jealous of our diamonds. So let me see. me take a
That's
look at that.
totally why the library is decorated with sea glass instead of like actual jewels.
Oh, yeah. It's like, give me some jewels. All right. So I think my rival this time is, let's see. His name is Finn, and this is what it is. And they are one of the chief couriers heading up this project down one shelf down from where the mine is. And their reputation is they are very dedicated to their faction. They are very very focused on making the couriers the best they can be, making sure that they serve the city as well as they can, and that everything is running as efficiently as possible. So they're known for being a very hard worker. Their appearance, so they are an eel mer person. So the very, very long and lithe, and slender, and they've got like this really, really long electric eel tail.
So you pick the one animal that doesn't really have pronounced fins as the person
Yes.
that is named Finn?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Their parents
Yep.
named them ironically.
Yeah, they have hipster parents. But their eel tail, like, they are very, very fast, which makes them a perfect courier because they're very speedy. And their true motivation is they want to get this old mine kind of like condemned, boarded up, done away with, so that the couriers can continue to move up onto that shelf where the mine is currently situated. And there it is. It's my mine. It's not yours, it's mine.
All right, that means it's me, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have the 2 of clubs. So clubs is a future purpose. And I think I'm going to go with this right here. So this whole area is getting a little crowded. That is, it's a cylindrical tower that is being built on that shelf, not far from where the couriers are building their future plans. I'll say first the tale people say about it is that they say that the hunters are trying to create a early warning system if the city comes under threat. The hunters talk often about all the terrifying sea creatures that are just outside the city. Most of the merfolk have never seen these terrifying sea creatures, but the hunters insist they exist, and they point to the big kraken in the museum as proof that they're out there. Scale is the building clearly has a number of large bells that are being constructed in it. So far, there are only a few, and the higher up in the tower you go, it's mostly just scaffolding right now, and they're alcoves for future bells, but those aren't there yet. The idea is that should the city be under any threat, the hunters that are stationed there would see it early and could sound the alarm through these bells so that the whole city could hear it and mobilize. And the inside of it, I mean, it's unfinished, but the inside is a mostly hollow, open, three-dimensional space. There are little nooks that are being built into it where there would be hunters that are stationed to be on alert. but those are for now empty. And then they have the bells that are near each of these nooks. But should it be finished, there would be a permanent stationing of hunters here in this tower, which probably the others who are sharing the shelf might not be fond of, but
Get out
they can
of
worry
here.
about that later.
Awesome.
Wow.
There's a lot going on Shelf 2. Shelf 2 is
Yeah.
a happening place.
It's the suburbs.
I just I do love that all of this is happening like within spitting distance of the Great Barrier Reef. So
Yeah, the sorcerers probably would not be thrilled if those bells ever were finished and used.
Can you really spit underwater though?
Well, I mean, I guess it won't travel very far, so I should revise my definition or like the terms of that phrase. But I'm also retroactively adding in an observation window in the in the library, heading down towards this way.
Coral just
to watch
Coral
all
just
the-
stands there and seethes.
Yeah.
How dare they?
Yeah, she's got a old-timey telescope that she's magicked.
Awesome.
to just watch the neighbors that are
Yep.
building all their stuff,
Why are they here?
destroying the property values.
Neighborhood watch. Am I next?
You are next.
Okay.
It's true.
All right. So I have 4 of clubs. Clubs is a future purpose. So all right. I am going to pick this little gaggle of small buildings. And I keep on saying it in my head as Horsey, but that's the Pokemon. They're seahorse farms.
Horsey Farms.
Horsey farms. My idea is that like the sorcerers are breeding this very specific species of seahorse, which may or may not be a Pokemon, which currently has no monetary value, but they are saving up like the scales from the seahorses for some like as a reagent for a spell that might become relevant in the future.
So would you say that they caught them all?
Technically they're breeding them all, but I heard you do that in later games, right?
So it's the scales. That's what they're seeking. Oh, it's a different Pokemon. I'm trying to think of. I was like, what do Horsies evolve into? Seadra, not
Seadra. Okay, it's been a while.
Okay.
What do people say about this place? They probably, honestly, they probably monetize it a little bit by having a cute seahorse petting zoo area in the bigger building over here. Whereas the rest of them are kind of like, I don't know, I keep on thinking of chicken coops, but it's more like realistically separate little enclosures based on how old the seahorses are. But to most of the mermaids of the city, it's just a cute place where they breed cute seahorses, which come in all these different shiny colors because of some strange property of their scales. But they're not really worth any money otherwise, so they don't really think anything of it. Yeah, so this describe the structure's appearance. Yeah, I already mentioned it's more like a collection of a lot of small buildings. They probably look very utilitarian on the outside, except for the big building, which has a friendly looking seahorse with like giant anime eyes to attract visitors to the petting zoo. And on the inside, yeah, so the big building is a petting zoo area where you can go in and touch the gentlest of the seahorses. But oh goodness, I actually don't know a lot about breeding fish. Well, I'll say like in all of the smaller buildings, they have little kind of like heat lamps, but magic and underwater, so that the baby seahorses, which are like, about that big, can kind of congregate under them and grow. And those little magical heat lamps are part of what makes their scales, like gives their scales these properties, which will be useful in some theoretical future spell, may or may not be relevant whenever these eldritch warehouses go online.
Important question. Is
Yes.
there a mer person that wears like a mascot outfit to take pictures with people?
With a giant seahorse
With
head?
the giant anime eyes.
Obviously. And then they're also like proportioned, so their bodies are very big and their limbs are very small. And they're
Of
stuffed
course.
so you can like hug them very well.
The hunters hate this. They're like, these are the most useless seahorses you could possibly have bred.
The hunters probably have like the really sleek, fast seahorses.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing?
These have big, cute eyes and stubby limbs, and they're useless.
That's so good. I love it. All right.
Okay. So I have the Six of Hearts, which is a social purpose. So hopefully you guys can see this because I'm black on black, but I'm taking this little unassuming building kind of in the middle over here on the left side. I'll go ahead and ping it for chat because it's a little bit hard to see. This is the Speedy Serpent Lounge. So this place is pretty empty most of the day. So people don't say a whole lot about it other than that, like, they don't really have an interest in going there. It's a bar. But it's absolutely where all of the couriers go to hang out after a long, hard day at work. You'll see right around midday, it gets a little bit busy for people stopping in on lunch break. But primarily, it's like the working man's hideout. That's where they go to bitch about their jobs and to bitch about the people in the city, and are not super welcoming of other people. It's, everyone's been to that one bar that everyone in a certain circle goes to, and when new people show up, they all kind of look at you a little bit weird. That's what this place is like, but it's where the couriers drink and eat. Its appearance is very unassuming. It's right in the middle of a bunch of other buildings. I kind of picture it as, kind of like a dark, gritty city area where you have to go down this back alley to get to the door. So you don't really see a whole lot from the outside. And on the inside, it's real dark and really kind of roughed up from the inside, but that's their place, and the food there is pretty good. I think that covers all of the things. I didn't really do them in order, but
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, there we go.
What kind of food do they serve? Do they have a specialty?
Do people eat there?
Yes, they do. I don't know if, well, as a sorcerer, you wouldn't know what their specialty is, but I mean, it's probably underwater chicken nuggies.
That's exactly the kind of comfort food I need after a long day.
Yeah.
It's tuna, chicken of the sea.
Yeah, exactly.
Tuna nuggies.
Tuna nuggies. Yeah, who knew the couriers were all goth? Who would have thunk? All right. Moving right along. Oh, I finally drew something that's not a face card. I hope somebody else draws face
Points.
cards that it's not just like everybody v jewelers. So I drew the 7 of diamonds, and diamonds are a financial purpose, which seems rather in line with my faction. So let me take a look at our lovely map. All right. Let's see. I'm going to pick this building here. And it is a bank, but it's not just like a bank. It's like a jewel bank. So people don't keep their money there, but jewelers house their working materials and finished items there when they are not like at their shops or at the Mer Mall selling things. This is kind of like a jeweler's specific safety deposit box place. So it's you can go there and you can buy or trade gems. You can store any of your materials there, that kind of thing. So what people say about it, nobody really pays it much mind because it's just like, yeah, it's where the jewelers keep their stuff. It's a very little interest to anybody who is not a jeweler or some kind of gem collector type person. I think from the outside it looks fairly nondescript. There's a little I'd say just like stucco-esque walls, just like whitish, off-whitish walls. There's a little not yard, but there's like a little bit of landscaping outside, so like it looks really nice. There's some like kelp bushes and like little benches, so like it looks fairly nice, but it's otherwise very nondescript from the outside. It's very neat, and I think that's part of why like people often just overlook it because it just looks like any old building. And on the inside, it's fairly hustle and bustle depending on what time of the day it is. There's like a trading floor area and like almost like a mini marketplace, and then it's just, I imagine, like PO boxes like in a post office, but it's just all like lines of like safety deposit boxes, where the jewelers keep their materials. So like certain times of day it's absolutely dead. You might get like 1 or 2 people in, but if it's like beginning of the workday, end of the workday, it's very, very hustly and bustly in there. So yeah, that's my gem bank.
Now it's me.
Now it's you. Come
All right.
on, face card.
I got a face card. I got the Queen of
Yes.
Clubs. So clubs is another future purpose. So these hunters are investing in a bunch of future things. And I am taking. I mean, it kind of also includes this little section here. But that whole right next to the cute animal pens. And the tale of that, what people say about it is, it's an ominous sign. The hunters are building some sort of fortified underwater castle of some sort.
Right next to the
Right
cute horse.
right next to the cute seahorses. You can imagine where the rival's going to be from. There's a lot of whispers in the city about why the hunters think this is necessary, and is it really necessary? Um, do we need a fortified castle in the city? Um, but the hunters are convinced that there's a need, that the city is too soft. There are too many threats from the outside. The couriers are building something to trade with other cities, and you know, what if any of those cities wants our stuff? We are defenseless, so we're building a castle. Um, the outside of it has these half-built walls, in many ways similar to the courier's vault up on the shelf. Um, eventually, they plan to build a similar like cage fortification around this castle, but it is also unfinished. Um, in the middle of it, there is a large sort of rock formation um, that was naturally occurring, but it's being hollowed out. They're building tunnels throughout it that would be, um, they would store arms in there. The soldiers would be barracked in there. And if anyone were to attack this castle, it would be a bit of a maze, so it'd be easy to defend that location. And that's also sort of the bone part of it, because the inside of it is a maze of caverns inside this natural underwater rock formation. Um, the rival, I need a name. Let's see. Um, the rival's name is Shimmer, and they are a sorcerer. Um, they have their lower body is sort of an iridescent scaled fish tail um, that sparkles when they swim through the water. Um, but Shimmer is said to be able to see the future, get glimpses of the future. And Shimmer doesn't like what this castle represents, doesn't think it's necessary. Um, also doesn't like that it's sitting right next to the breeding pen for the very important future seahorses that are going to be critical to a spell that the sorcerers have. Especially since the hunters have not really been shy about their opinions on how useless these seahorses are. They would much prefer if there were actual like war seahorses being bred right next to the castle, but instead of cute, fluffy seahorses.
Well, they're not fluffy.
I picture like they're I picture them being a little round, so not really fluffy, but like squishy seahorses, cute squishy
The
seahorses.
mascot costume is probably a little fluffy, but the actual seahorses, yeah. Um,
So yeah, Shimmer. I've sort of described what they look like. Their reputation. I mean, I talked about that a little bit. Shimmer's reputation is that they can see the future, and they sort of a lot of the populace of the city has awe around them because of the things that they claim to have seen, and I think at least some of their predictions have like their visions are vague enough, but they've applied things that have actually happened that can be interpreted as they were correct. Um, so they have a powerful reputation. Um, and Shimmer's true motivation. Shimmer claims that they have seen visions that building this castle will make the merfolk in the city um, too warlike, and that eventually that will bring down the city. So their true motivation is to stop this from being completed. That is my building.
That sounds fine.
Yeah,
All
I
of
could
that
go wrong.
sounds totally fine.
just add a little more tension into this whole city.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay. I believe I'm next. So, I have the Ace of Spades. Does Ace count as a face card in this game, or is it just a 1 point card?
It is a 1 by the look of it, because yeah, face card. Yeah, it just says Jack, Queen, and King. So yes, that is just an Uno.
Okay. All right. So spades, the suit of spades means a past purpose. So what I think I'm gonna do is I definitely tilt my head when I'm looking at things that are like sideways. So I was going to pick like this kind of oh wait, let me actually do a draw tool. Um this kind of what looks like just a pile of rubble um on the side of the wall, the shelf, I guess. And what I was thinking was that this is a there's got to be a better term than landfill, I guess, but like kind of it's a former dump site for a sea fill for former magical items and stuff that the sorcerers have used. And this in particular is like centuries old. It's been covered up for ages and ages. So not many people in the city now know what it is. They just kind of know it as like a big block of or a big conglomeration of rocks and stuff that the sorcerers kind of patrol every once in a while. But maybe patrol is too strong of a word. That would make people more suspicious.
I mean, it is a magical waste dump site.
Sure. Anyone with the equivalent, like the fish equivalent of a Richter or like a Geiger counter would be able to be like, something's up here. But there are sorcerers that kind of hang around the place to make sure that things stay where they should be. On the inside, I kind of had the image that like once you go inside, it actually looks kind of like a rather like sleek interior and stuff. Like everything isn't just like dumped there. It's more like carefully organized and put away and then sealed shut. And then they just made the outside look like a rocks had collapsed there instead, so it appeared more natural. But no one has been inside for ages and ages again. I think that's all that I have.
Okay. Well, I also have a face card. I have the Jack of Diamonds, which is a financial purpose. So I'm going to choose this like tall pyramid looking building right here. And this is the residence of the head of the couriers, who shall be unnamed and undescribed in case they end up being a rival in the future. However, they're not necessarily the nicest of people, and they're absolutely in it for the money, to a point where they might be a little bit of an extortionist. The couriers are not great people, you guys. And this is where he lives, and it's a little bit fortified, but it's also very gaudy. It's a tall building, kind of looms over the ones next to it, and it's outlined in not necessarily jewels, but more like precious metals. And it always has like a guard outside, and people who are normies are a little bit afraid of it, and what potentially could go on inside there. But for the most part, it's just he's like the headmaster of the couriers. Does that cover the tail, scale, and bone? I think. Yeah, on the inside, like I said, it's a little bit ostentatious, but most normal people don't get to go inside, so they don't really know the full extent of the tall building that they live in. But I do have a rival for this, and it's a financial place because that's where a lot of the business deals happen, and it's also where a lot of like the extortioning commands sort of happen. There's like a hierarchy within the couriers where the lower people are just kind of just normal delivery people, but once you get higher up, they kind of handle the shipments and also the holding of cargo and other sort of assets that they might make people pay a lot of money for to get back. But there is one person who's clued in to all of this, who is not a courier, and that is Mako, the hunter. He has, and he knows this because he used to be pretty close. I wouldn't say he was necessarily a courier, but he was definitely kind of like on the ins with that group of people before he became a hunter. But he is, well, first of all, he's a shark person, of course. And in my head, I kind of imagine like street sharks, like he's just like real buff and real angry. But he's a really good hunter. Like he's one of the best protectors of the city. So people hold him in like pretty high regard around here. And his true motivation is to see the couriers not necessarily fall, because some of their responsibilities are very useful, but kind of have the head of them ousted and kind of restructured. So
I like to think that before he was a hunter, because he's so buff and everything, and he knew the couriers, he would maybe like an enforcer bodyguard for couriers who were shipping
exactly,
risky
I think
things.
that's a perfect previous life for him. Not all couriers are runners.
I like
Well,
that the couriers.
none of these couriers
I mean,
are runners.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. And I like that the couriers are like the mafia and the postal service.
Basically,
They were.
Hey, but nobody loses packages in this city.
Well,
Everything gets where it needs to go.
or
it's a nice delivery you have there. It'd be a pity if something happened to it.
as long as you pay for it.
Awesome. I love it. Like, in the hunters are all doomsday preppers.
Yep, that's what happened when I kept drawing future things.
I just love that the sorcerers are so far only suspicious AF. Like, but that's the only thing they do so far.
They just sit around like wringing their hands over everything. Like, what is happening here?
Planning some anti-capitalist and anti-war protests.
They're valid. I want to go join them. All right. I drew the 5 of diamonds, which is another financial purpose. So let me see what. Let me look at this map. Okay. This will be fun. So right over here, right by Magic Dump and Mermal and Bank. These are the new mines, the new gem mines. After several unsuccessful attempts to re-up the gems in the old mine, the jewelers have located new mines that are just flush with gems. There's so many gems. There are more gems that you could ever need, except that's a lie because there's no such thing as more gems than you can ever need. So because there are so many, and this is a newer mine, so there's a lot of things like up towards the opening of the mine still. People tend to stay away because there are hired guards that patrol outside of the mines to make sure that people don't just like sneak in there after hours and try to just mine some for themselves. So people know that it's a mine. They know that there are a lot of gems there. They know that the jewelers own the mine and that you should not go in there because there are people in place to deter any potential thieves. From the outside, it just looks like two holes in the side of the wall. It's rather unassuming, unlike the other mine that had like kind of a little bit of a production outside. This is just, there is nothing, and then there is the opening to the mine, and that is about it. And on the inside, a lot of the stuff is built inside. Like they have a small office built in right into the entrance where like the mine foreman is stationed. They have all of these lanterns hung up throughout the mine that are probably just like bioluminescent jellyfish and other like bioluminescent creatures, like in jars hanging on ropes down along the way. There are some smaller carts on wheels that the miners will push in and out. And it's a little smaller. It's not like well, depending on who you are, it could be claustrophobic. It's not, the walls aren't as tall as some of the older mines that they have found around here. They're all fairly shorter, so there's not a lot of room because they're still just drilling out the main portion of it, so there hasn't been any like major expansion across or up and down. So it's pretty much like average mer height tall and average, and then like mer plus cart width. But it's real pretty because there's a lot of bioluminescent lanterns and stuff there. So, and they're not super keen that it's right next to the magic dump, but it's in nice close proximity to the bank and the mer mall. So they're like, ooh, this is an advantageous location.
I wonder if at some point they may tunnel into the magical dump, because nobody but the sorcerers goes inside there, and it's all actually nice inside. But if they were to accidentally or intentionally tunnel in,
Do like a hard left for
nice
no reason.
magic dump you have there. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it.
all of our merfolk are terrible and extorting each other.
It's fine. This is what mer capitalism does.
No wonder why everyone hates them all.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's me.
All right, I got the 5 of hearts. So I have my first social location for the hunters, and it is up here on this plateau. It's called the Point, and it is sort of it sits on this plateau that rises up from the floor of the city. It's probably level with the next shelf up, and it has sort of a temple built onto it with columns. I actually picture like a Greek style temple with the columns and the roof. And this is where a hunt is called. So the leaders of the hunters faction will gather here, and there are these there are these old huge like horns. I guess maybe they're narwhal horns. And they will, when they blow these horns, they are calling for a hunt. So they are gathering the hunters to go seek out some large threat. Normally, the hunters will go and they'll hunt the sea creatures for food and bring them back to the city. But when a hunt is called here at the Point, it is a big deal. So that's what everyone says about this. The tale, the scale. As I mentioned, it's on this big plateau that reaches up to the next shelf, and it has the temple with the columns on it. And I think there are all kinds of like reliefs carved into the temple of sea creatures. Some of these mythical sea creatures that the hunters talk about that most people have never seen. And then the inside of it, there isn't much of an inside, and people can see it because the temple is not fully enclosed. Um, it's got the columns that surround it. Um, it is sort of an open sort of plaza area in these columns. And it is only a temporary gathering point. When the hunt is called, the leaders will be there of the hunters, and the other hunters will gather at the point, but then they'll all embark on their hunt. So there isn't a need for it to house people or to be secretive or contain anything. Yeah, that is the point.
I
Excellent.
like it.
Yeah, glad no doomsday prepping this time. So
Okay. My turn next. All right. I got a face card. I got a King of Hearts. So we'll start with the building. Hearts means a social purpose. So, ooh, I will pick a building somewhere. Okay, I think I'm going to pick this one over here. And um I'll have it be a magic monastery of sorts. Um so I like it's almost religious in nature. This is where sorcerers come and train, but at the same time they'll have like gatherings with members of the public and then talk about sorcery and how great it is and what it can do for people. The outside is kind of decorated with rusted over metal beams kind of arranged to make like these like these archways that the rest of the building is kind of built around. And on the inside, um, you have like this high ceiling, which is the reason why I picked that building in particular, where they actually have like the sorcerer in chief kind of like stand in or float in the middle, and then everyone kind of surrounds them so that they can hear and so that they can all hear, especially see the small miracles that they'll perform. Um, it's got a it's got a mostly good reputation with the rest of the community because they will do further charity works in addition to like inviting the public inside. Uh, and for a rival, um, let's say there is a courier named, oh no, named uh Moray. Um who's also very eel-like, kind of like an especially long, lean, uh, gray body, who in particular has a bit of a contentious history with this monastery. Um, their their child was supposed to follow them into the courier business, and it's more than a business, it's a family. But their child decided to try to learn the sorceress arts instead, and ever since then Moray has had like a personal vendetta against this monastery and thinks that um, their supposedly benevolent missions are really just trying to, like, take people away from their business. And that is, and so they've kind of been working on the like on the down low for a way to dismantle the reputation in the city.
So what we've done with all these courier rivals is now I just picture all the couriers as eel people with like Jersey accents. They're all like the courier mafia.
That's amore.
They're eels.
Oh no, what have I done?
What have you done to us?
I mean, you're not wrong. However, on a little bit of a different note for the couriers, I drew the Four of Hearts, which is another social purpose. I'm going to choose, let's see. I think this building right here. You can see that. It's a big old building, and that's because it is kind of a community center. It's a community building. It doesn't look like anything too special from the outside, but that's because its main purpose is all on the inside. It's got almost like a apartment building. It's got like community housing. It also has a lot of like community events for just people around who live in the city. They also provide free food, almost like a soup kitchen. It's definitely like a charity, like community building center. And that's how the couriers stay in good graces with everyone. No one really suspects them of doing anything too bad because they provide so much to the city via this building, and everybody loves it. There are lots of poorer people who tend to stay here more permanently, but then in some of the more community focused things, they have like dances and like game nights and stuff like that. So a lot of different classes of people kind of mix in here, and they all think that it's better for the city that way. I think that covers, I mean, it doesn't really look anything special. Like I mentioned, it just has kind of like those, I almost figure like it's like a smaller hotel where it's got rooms, but then also kind of like ballrooms and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you don't want it to be too decorated, or you don't want it to look too distinct because people are going to decorate it for whatever they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the merfolk hold conventions there?
They absolutely do.
Did we name our city?
Not yet.
No, we did not.
We did not.
Atlantis Comic Con.
Yeah. Murcon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that about covers that. It's a very social place, and people really like it.
Is it this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, let's draw some cards.
Which they fund, of course, from the money they steal from the people they extort, which are mostly rich people. So like they're kind of like the Robin Hood of the Postal Service.
Chaotic good. Yeah.
All right. I drew the Ace of Hearts. So it's going to be a social purpose. Let me see. Okay. I have an idea. So I am choosing this whole area over here. And this is like a fair carnival type area that the jewelers have funded as kind of like, I think with the couriers having like their community center type thing, the jewelers not to be outdone are like, well, you know what, we should give back to the community too. I mean, we've already made this great mall, but let's go a little further. And they have created this year-round carnival fair amusement park type place that is just you pay you just pay a one-time admission, and you can just go, and there are rides and food and all sorts of stuff. And people really like it. I think it's really popular with the younger crowds, with like families, things like that. People think that it's a lot of fun. It's unlike anything that the city has otherwise. There aren't a lot of like recreational areas around, and I think it looks very over the top. It's all decorated. It's like big fake shells. Like it's like everything's like very extra over the top, like mermaid aesthetic, like Lost City of Atlantis type deal. Like it's very bright. It's very vibrant, eye-catching, lots of very like whimsical shapes and designs. And on the inside, it's a lot of the same. It's bright, it's vibrant, it's full of people. It's got a bunch of different places that you can eat and rides to ride, and um, they probably have a mascot as well to compete with the cute seahorse mascot that the sorcerers have. Um, and it's just a fun place that people like to go to, and I think it also attracts um, people from other cities come here, which also increases
A greater mermaid community.
yeah, so it increases travel, and people come far and wide to go to this amusement park.
What would you think about a puffer fish? Like instead of screaming, it
Ooh.
just puffs up because it's excited.
Oh, I like that, with like just wide, excited eyes. And it's got little fins, and it's just like,
Hey!
it's like teeny little fins.
The hunters sigh from their castle, their half-built castle.
Yeah, right. They're
What
just like,
would the hunter's mascot be? Or would you answer this with your next building? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Or will you do not have a mascot because you're hunters?
they're the big tough hunters. So, well, let's see. Let
I
the
do.
cards decide, because I answered all of my things. So let's see what's involved for the Doomsday Preppers.
Okay, so I got the 3 of clubs, so that means more doomsday prepping because it's another future purpose.
But this time with the mascot.
Yes, actually, that kind of works here because I am picking this over here near the castle and the cute seahorse breeding ground. So, well, yes, no, but what people say about it, not much. Not many people outside the hunters, and only a select few hunters know anything about this. It does look like a thermal vent of some sort, but hunters can sometimes be seen going into it, and they'll eventually come out, but they aren't carrying anything with them. No one knows exactly what is going on there. They are slightly concerned, just because it's a big mystery and it's a big hole in the floor of the city. The scale, so it's a partially thermal vent, a large hole, um, just at the bottom of this City in the floor of the ocean. But the opening is probably like 40 feet across, and hunters will occasionally go in and come out. Um, but they're very quiet about the goings on there. The inside and the sort of true purpose of the vent is they are breeding something in there. Um, they've seen what the sorcerers are doing with those seahorses, and while they don't approve of the seahorses because they're useless, it's not a bad idea to breed, you know, terrifying creatures. So in this thermal vent, something is growing that the hunters will train eventually once it's grown up enough to be trained.
So instead of like lots of little cute seahorses, it is one
It is one thing right now.
one thing, which doesn't sound like it's very cute.
I
It is not.
don't trust any of that.
It is some sort of like thermal vent sea monster creature, like a large, like sea worm.
Yeah, I was thinking like the tube worms
You know?
with the lips,
So
except scary.
it is terrifying. Yep. But most people have not seen it. Only the hunters that go are raising the thing. And occasionally a hunter doesn't come out who went in because it gets eaten by the baby worm thing. But you know, that happens.
I'm sorry,
And you know,
calling it baby worm thing broke me.
and you know, when it gets big enough, it might get hungry, and I can always snack on the horsies that are nearby. But
The horsies.
Why are you so mean to the adorable seahorses?
They're cute.
I didn't mean for my hunters to become doomsday preppers, but here we are.
The deck decided that your
Yeah.
hunters were going to be doomsday preppers.
Yep.
Is that where horsey sauce comes from? Little horseradishes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just imagining, because like since I talked about a mascot before, like the hunters have like t-shirts with stylized pictures of the baby worm thing on them, but no one knows what it is because one, it's stylized, and two, this baby worm thing shouldn't exist. So we're
Nobody
just
except hunters goes into the thing, so they're like, it's just a conceptual mascot. It's certainly not something that they're breeding under the city.
yeah, it's like an abstract art design. What are you so paranoid about? Okay. All right. Let's see. It's my turn, right? Unless you had something else to add, Jason.
Nope. That is
Okay.
it. Fine.
All right.
You've done enough.
Yes.
Cutting you off. I got the 7 of spades, and spades is a past purpose. Okay. I think that I will pick this little thing right here. It's kind of like it used to be a lighthouse, or kind of like a big marker that would float above the city, and it was basically like a sign being like, hey, come here, this is the city. And also kind of be a warning for large traveling groups, like, hey, this is the city, you can't just like come into our space without doing anything about it. But this was a long time ago, back when the various mer people cities were more commonly at war, and since they're in a relative peace, the sorcerers decided to kind of like tank this project, invest their energies elsewhere, and since then it's like it has come to whether or not it was a good idea for them to do that has been hotly contested, but in any case, like this giant crystal, which is hollowed out, you can like step inside it, is now resting on this shelf of the floor. It's kind of a weird tourist attraction for most of the denizens of the city. You can walk inside, see the defunct controls. Yeah, you can pay like whatever the mermaid equivalent of $5 is to like take a picture with it. Um, but yeah, that's the ancient beacon of the city.
The hunters are probably like, things are peaceful for now, but you really probably shouldn't have let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the hunters are like looking through their blinds. They're just like, hmm. And obviously it's clams, 5 clams.
Oh yeah. Silly of me.
I like how a lot of the sorcerer's stuff is on the outskirts of the city too. It's like on the
Yeah.
shelves on the outside.
They
Yeah.
definitely haven't been consolidating their power. If anything, they've been letting go of it a little too easily.
Speaking of the outskirts,
Ooh.
I'm drawing
Sounds like
that.
Oh, what
because
is that?
weird.
What is that? It's one of the Fall Guys, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it
It's
is.
eating Jason's
My bell
Bell
tower.
It's underneath, below the shelf. But this is the sorcerers are breeding seahorses, and the hunters are breeding a giant worm. The couriers are breeding more couriers. I drew the King
Wow.
of Clubs, which is a future card. This is the Courier University. There are dorms here. There are schoolrooms.
Okay, that's better than what I thought it was going to be.
This is where you learn how to be a courier, and this is where every child of couriers goes to get their courier education. Like I said, it's not one single building, it's a whole mess of them. A bunch of little living spaces, and then a bunch of bigger classrooms, and kind of like not like, I guess gym is a weird way of putting it, but ways for them to train in either strength or speed or some other asset that is useful to the couriers. And people think it's a little bit weird that they have their own like training facility over there, so it's probably not looked at super well for people who are not interested in being couriers. But for what it is, it's pretty nice. It's a pretty chill place to live and get a decent education.
What if one of like the training areas was kind of like an infinity pool where they kind of have like an artificial wave thing and they just like swim against the current a lot to train?
Within the waves already?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly that.
Also, between that and your community center, you're like gathering up this little secret army of couriers.
Yeah, we're
training them up.
We're not just the mafia, we're also a cult.
Well, that makes that tower placement very like strategic.
Yes, indeed. So I do have a rival that needs to exist, and I think that she is a jeweler, because we do not have any jeweler NPC rivals yet that I can remember.
But we're such agreeable people.
Are you though? Because you were pretty spiteful with that fair. And I think that fair exists because of a woman, a merwoman named Marine, who is kind of like she's gorgeous. She has like long flowy fins, kind of like a betta fish basically. She's like multicolored and beautiful, but she's not very fast and she's not very strong, and she had previous aspirations to become a courier, but they did not accept her to the school. It's relatively rare that they accept people who are not already in with the fam anyway. But it happens rarely when they see people can be assets. She did not seem like an asset to them.
Ouch.
She's very bitter about it. So she's the one who tries to kind of forward the jewelers' motivations in competition with the couriers. And I think she leads the carnival fair. I think she's like the person that heads it up and takes care of everything that goes on there.
How dare you not accept her?
Listen, maybe if she were better.
End of statement. End of statement. All right. So we're gonna do one more round before we get into our scoring part and decide who gets to take this seat of power in the city.
I'm
So
really
let's-
curious about that.
Yeah, so am I. So I drew a 9 of clubs. So clubs being a future purpose. Oh, so now it's the jeweler's turn for some doomsday prepping. My cat is
Ooh.
getting into something back there, and I'm afraid to look. Future purpose. Okay, so I'm just gonna while out this giant compound right in the center of the city because
I
nobody
was waiting
else
for that.
has. Yep. So the jewelers are starting to build a guild hall, which is something that they've never had before. They haven't been like a grand unified force. They've just hung out like at the marketplace, at the Mer Mall, and things like that. But they have purchased this compound more or less and are starting to convert it from what it was to a guild hall with like dormitories for any like apprentices coming in. They're gonna with like and it's right next to the bank, so they can go to the bank. But really, yeah, they're building like a meeting hall. They're building dormitories for apprentices. They're building workshops, just so that the jewelers can all have one unified place in the city, for everyone to congregate and exist. And people aren't super jazzed about it. I think that this building used to be like a school that, for whatever reason, just is no longer a school. It was just like this derelict building.
Because the jewelers bought it.
Because the jewelers bought it. So nobody really knew at the beginning like what they were planning on doing with the building, but whispers have gotten out that this is what that they're building, like this large guild complex. So people aren't super excited about it. And right now from the outside it looks a lot like a building under construction. There are walls at the corners of it with gates between on each side. And there's a lot of like scaffolding outside around it. Which, why do they need scaffolding? There's scaffolding. Like they can swim, but they still need a place to like put their building materials. So yeah, like it's surrounded by scaffolding and it's being like repainted and refinished, so it looks really roughshod right now because it's going under like this full overhaul that soon it will be ready for their purposes. And on the inside right now it's fairly gutted. It's a lot of very large open space with plans to build into it like smaller rooms, like a large workshop, a large meeting area. But it's all in progress, but it's going to be a lot of places for people to stay and places for people to like congregate and do work together. Yep. And that's my gigantic complex.
Okay.
Prime real estate too.
Yeah, well, nobody took it, so why not me?
All right. I have a Jack of Spades.
Ooh,
So I have a
I was
base card, and it's also a past purpose. Um. I think I'm going to take these buildings down here, not far from the undefined seat of power. Um, these are the old and original residential areas of the city, dating back to the old city. Um, Nowadays, they're seen as rundown and poor um, and dilapidated, but they have become a central point of power for the recruits for the hunters. Um, Basically, it's a rough part of town. It's sort of the slums. It's where might makes right. Um, Basically, the young and impetuous hunters sort of make their mark there, competing against each other in rival gangs, um, all fighting for acceptance into the proper hunters faction. Um, so the tail aspect, what people say about it is that it is just the bad part of the city. You don't want to be there, and if you don't have to be, you just don't go there. It's dangerous. All these hunter wannabes and recruits trying to make their mark, um, but also it's run down. There's no reason why you would want to hang out there if you weren't born there and living there. Um, the scale, it is a lot of densely packed, run down old buildings. I think they're probably made out of either stone or coral, and they're just old and falling apart, so they've sort of become almost like caves, um, just barely still standing. Uh, and then the bone aspect is what most people who aren't from that area don't realize about it is these gangs have become more increasingly powerful just because they've sort of fought each other to gain dominance in this neighborhood. And as they do so, they grow in power. Um, and they are also fiercely traditionalist. They date back to the oldest residents of the city, and they are not fans of a lot of the changes that take place in the city. Um, and their rival is from the jewelers faction. Um, let's see. For his name, I think his name is Angler. Um, and he's got sort of a lore that hangs from him, like an anglerfish. Um, but it just glows. Um, he is a influential and successful member of the jewelers faction, who wants to buy out a lot of this property, despite the fact that it is run down. It is still prime real estate on the main floor of the city. If only those pesky gangs and hunters could be dealt with, he could buy up all this cheap property with his jewels and rebuild it into something fabulous. Um, so Angler is constantly working to undermine all of these gangs, but they're also constantly working against the jewelers and Angler in particular, who they're not big fans of. They don't want their neighborhood bought up and gentrified. And yeah, I think as far as Angler's appearance, not only does he have that sort of lore that hangs over his head and glows, but he wears a lot of visibly gaudy jewelry. Um, he just looks like money, which occasionally he shows up in this neighborhood and he'll parade around, and he will bring guards with him that he's all hired and paid for, so that the gangs can't mess with him. But they all resent that a great deal.
Wow, he sucks.
You're welcome.
Great.
Okay. All right. So my turn. I got the 2 of spades, so more past stuff. Yes? Yeah, spades is a past purpose. Okay. Herc, this is your convention hall, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pick the building right next to it. And that is a former embassy that the sorcerers had, which was not for hosting other merfolk or whatever, but people from other planes of existence, or even like travelers from even further than just like the vicinity and the ocean. Since the since borders have become much less contested, and not as many people have, like, not as many of those kinds of visitors have been coming in the last like few hundred years, they've kind of had to diversify from their original intent. So right now they're kind of seen as like the second best community center, where all the not as cool conventions and dances and clubs go. Like on the outside on the outside and the inside, it's clearly a little bit run down. At this point, they haven't had like the kind of money or need to like keep the grand archways perfectly maintained. There are some windows which maybe cracked at some point and never really got around to fixing them on the outside. So it definitely looks kind of so it definitely looks like not well kept on the outside. The inside looks a little better, since a lot of like the grand halls inside were shored up with magic from other sources, which kind of kept themselves going. So you still have like scintillating crystal chandeliers and like these grand hallways with kelp forest decorations that kind of line the walls and make it feel very foresty, and would help, other beings besides merfolk feel a little more at home. But yeah, for the most part, as far as most people know, as far as like any citizen, normal city dweller knows, there hasn't been an actual extraplanar ambassador in ages. So yeah, this is just the less good community center.
But who knows? There could still be like portals or gates to all kinds of places in there.
Hidden behind the kelp forests. Sometimes
It's also the chandelier.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's where prom happens.
Yeah, because the high school can't afford the nice place, so
Okay, so I don't know why I drew it that way. Hold on. This is good enough. So I have the 8 of clubs. So yet another future for the couriers. I'm imagining this building as looking very plain from the outside. It's just straight like sheet metal walls with this weird like bubble on the top of glass that allows it to see out. And the actual building itself is not very tall, but it's in a point of the city where it has a pretty good view of most of it. And this is the courier's like spy network building. This is where they do all of the research into what goes on into like from the other like communities and guilds. Um, this is where they gather information and store it and talk about it and then do research about how they're going to combat it. Their current problem and process is what's going on in the Hunter's Bent. So they are secretly devoting most of their spy resources to that.
At least one person owns the T-shirt, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
They're hella sus over what's happening in there and are afraid that it's going to cause problems in the city.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's not fine though. It will become a detriment to their business and they don't like that. So most people don't know anything about this place. No one really says anything about it because it just looks almost like an abandoned building. There's actually a secret underground entrance, so they really don't see anyone coming in and out of it. People just know that that building is there. They don't really know what it is. And then on the inside, yeah, it's mostly just a network of higher up couriers whose specialty is espionage.
All of this is totally fine.
Of course it's fine.
Obviously. Oh my goodness.
Listen, you need the CIA. It can be both.
For your infancy.
What better people to understand what's going on than the people with
travel
their
everywhere?
Yeah.
wheels on the ground?
Yeah, right? Oh my goodness. Okay. So now we add up our points. So face cards
Not
are
worth it.
0 points. And that will determine what the seat of who gets to determine what the seat of power is according to our
Who's
faction.
the most powerful faction?
Who is the most powerful faction?
So I think I have a chance of winning. So I would like to say mine last for the suspense.
Okay. So God, math. I have 22.
I have 14, so I definitely did not win.
Yeah. Go back to your vent.
Hey, we're preparing for the future. We're not powerful now, but just you wait.
Gosh. I got a 23.
I have a 25.
Oh God, is this like an Amazon warehouse?
Maybe. So can you describe what we need to do?
So
now
all you
again?
so all you do is you just get to describe your faction in mind. So the building we determined was the seat of power. Whatever you want it to be, whatever it makes the most sense for it to be for your faction is what it is.
Okay. Well, you guys can collaborate on this if you would like to, because it is somewhat difficult to come up with ideas for these guys. But I think that this is probably like their central processing warehouse somewhere where all of the packages and mail needs to go. It's kind of the main hub of the city. It's where everything goes to before it gets shipped out to wherever else it needs to go. Unfortunately, I don't think that leads to really any fun story things. So I will leave it up to you guys to see if you have any suggestions for that.
Well, I think one interesting thing about this location is all the shipments go in and most of the shipments come out of it, but the couriers know everything that moves through this building. And some things just never reach their destination, strangely. So the couriers have probably built up a collection of very valuable and unusual things that have come through their warehouse here.
It's true. I do imagine there is like a secret room or warehouse in there that has a lot of like the valuable stuff, and that's really why they're building the future fortress, to kind of be more protected against things like that, or protective of things like that.
Maybe it wasn't always a warehouse too. Maybe you repurposed like a ruin that was already there.
Yeah, so I was thinking like if it was something that was like very important, that they're like, well, we need space to do this, so we're gonna
They
take
kind of
over
just
this.
overtook it and was like, well, it's ours now. Thank
It's
you.
like, it makes me think of like those very cursed real estate listings where it's like, oh, this was a church and now it's a house, but it's still very much a church that people are trying to like pass off as a house. Like I imagine it's something like that, like
I
a
would
ruin that
absolutely
had a
love it
very
to be-
specific purpose.
Yeah, to be like some sort of church. Like, God, of course they fucking started as a cult. Like, let's be real.
Oh,
This
it.
This is the central original cult beginnings of the Couriers.
So
Oh,
maybe it was a church of a now forgotten god that was important to the thing,
Mhm.
and the god is forgotten, except it's not by the couriers. They've like
Oh, God.
secretly been carrying on this ancient forgotten faith or whatever, and woven it into the whole couriers faction.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's like their like badge or like logo is like this weird like tentacle monster.
I'm into it.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like an octopus that has tentacles everywhere, just like the
Mhm.
couriers.
Ever reaching. Oh,
Cool. I think that's it. I think that covers them.
all right. Yeah, well, so
No, there's got to be a good courier motto we can have that's derived from your spaghetti monster mascot. Always in touch.
There you go.
That's slightly creepy.
Yeah,
well, so are the couriers.
Yes,
true.
I like this city that we built. It's very, it's just a creepy city full of
It's-
mostly terrible people.
It's a weird place that we have made.
A lot more morally gray than I thought it was going to be when we started out.
Yeah, big same, but this was
I had
great.
an idea that the Couriers were going to be like not great people to begin with. I feel like that was the best way for me to play them. They just had to eke out a little bit slowly.
That's awesome.
It was great though. I love the layers that it added to everything.
Yeah.
I didn't expect the
so-
rest of you to also be a little bit weird though.
I mean, why not?
I didn't intend for that. It's just like when you have hunters and you keep drawing cards that are future things. I'm like, they have to be afraid of something that's coming, because hunters like thinking about the future. All they could be doing is preparing.
Yeah, right.
It's true. We did get a lot of future cards. Like most of mine were future cards.
Yeah, I think I got a lot of past cards, which made sorcerers feel more like used to be a great power, not really
Mm.
so much anymore.
Yeah, mine were like all over the place.
Did we only get like 2 financial? Is that the diamonds?
I know
Mhm.
I got I
got
got
one.
a financial one. So that was the least represented one, but well,
Yeah. We have the Mermaw, so
Yeah, we have the Mermaw.
We do have a mermaw.
So this has been Tail, Scale, and Bone, an expansion of the wonderful game Beak, Feather, and Bone by Tyler Crumry. Here it is. I will put the link in the chat if you want to check it out. It's on itch.io. You can get physical copies of it on itch.io as well. So like I said, this was made by Tyler Crumrine. You can follow him on Twitter at @coolguy, cool guy. This game is absolutely wonderful. It's so much fun to play. You can play it with any number of people, with no prep and no GM. So
Yeah, the other cool thing about it is, like, if you have any city map that's unlabeled, you could use it with this game.
with
You could
anything.
like make your own people and just use
Yep.
the map and build out a city.
Yeah, in
just
the,
like take a satellite screenshot of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the rules translate to anything. They're not this specific. The original game is about raven folk. This expansion is about merfolk. You can really play it with any type of folks and factions, which is really cool.
I was just thinking it would be fun to like take a satellite image, like put like a blue overlay over it, and then say it's like a sunken city, like post-apocalyptic, and now you're the mermaids who are populating it now. Anyway, there's an idea for everyone else.
That is really cool. So thank you to my wonderful players. We'll go around in reverse order. Tell us who you are. Tell us where we can find you on the internet if you've got any cool stuff going on. And tell us what tell us what you think the hunters are raising in their weird sea vent.
Give us a detail about the terrible sea
Give
worm.
give us a detail about the monster that is in the sea vent.
Okay.
So, yep.
I'm Herky. You can find me at Herky Avello on Twitter, but you probably shouldn't.
You
I
can.
think.
Anti-promo.
Listen, I used to sign off every podcast I did with "Don't follow me." It's just better for everyone. I think it's a giant crab. I think it's gonna come out of there and it's gonna have like claws. I think the first thing you're gonna see when it comes out is this huge claw with like a hunter just like crushed in the middle of it, and then it's gonna pull up and raise the whole city. But the couriers will be prepared, so they'll save everyone. Just you wait and see.
Oh yes, just the giant crab contingency.
Does it have a knife? That's the important question.
It has a knife, but it's a really tiny knife. It's a normal sized knife. By the way, random promo: the game Fight Crab is great. Everyone should play it.
Fight Crab? Is that on Steam or is that an RPG?
It sure is.
Okay.
It's a 1v1. Well, they have up to 4 player, I think, but it's just a fighting game where you are crabs with multiple different kinds of weapons.
Wow, I didn't know this existed.
It's very good.
That's wonderful. So Jason, who are you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm Jason. I'm at Jace Levine on Twitter. I don't really know what I have to promo. Yeah, I show up here sometimes. This is my second appearance here. Who knows if there will be more? Maybe.
There probably will be. There's no sense in lying.
But yeah. Let's see. In addition to being a crab, I think the hunters have been slowly collecting valuable gems and metals, and so the shell of the crab is just like an armor plating.
Oh God, is it like
as it
that
grows,
crab
they
from
just keep adding.
Moana?
Yes.
Yes.
It's very shiny.
Can it also have a Kiwi accent?
Of course.
Okay. That's Sharon's edition. It talks.
It's my edition.
and it has a Kiwi accent.
Which I would try to mimic, except I fear I would offend Kiwis everywhere if I did.
Sharon, who are you? Where can we find you?
Oh
What are you
yeah,
doing?
I skipped everything else except for the
Yeah.
monster, the fat monster. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Sharon. You can find me on Twitter with my handle is at @chew_baka. I am currently in a regular game on Jess's channel, which is twitch.tv/go_JG.
JG.
Sorry, I blanked. We'll put it in the chat in a second. But we
Yeah.
are
Here, I'll stick it
playing
in the chat so you don't get
cards
blocked.
every other weekend. This Saturday happens to be one of our on days. It is at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Not 5 p.m. I went the other way. It is 2 p.m. Eastern or 11 a.m. Pacific time. It is a fun, spoopy time. We are battling our own inner demons and a very terrifying ecosystem. But I would love it if you could all come check us out. Everyone's put in a lot of work for that show, and it is so much fun. So
Awesome.
that's me.
Awesome. So before I do my outro, I want to give a shout out to our wonderful sponsors. So we have one of our sponsors is Tabletop Loot. If you use code SHIELDMOM, all one word, you can get 15% off of your purchase. We are also sponsored by Heartbeat Dice, another amazing dice maker. And you can use the code Chromatic, all in caps, for 10% off. The Chromatic Chimera is also part of the Roll20 Spotlight program, so we give a big shout out to them for helping us spotlight some cool games and make awesome content. And hi, I'm Megan. This is my show. Thank you so much for hanging out. You can find me most places on the internet at Megan Lynn FTW. You can follow me, and I shout about TTRPGs and jamless and prepless games because I love them very much. If you haven't noticed, you can find me here on the Chromatic Chimera on Mondays at 6:30 Eastern, playing with No Initiative in Quest the Soaring City. No Initiative just recently became Quest affiliate, so if you purchase anything from their store, you can use code No Initiative for 10% off your purchase there. Our season finale is next week, and then we will be back for season 2 in 2 weeks, and we're super, super excited about it. You can find me here once a month hosting Unprepared. Next month, we're going to be playing Our Queen Crumbles, which is a really cool kind of spoopy game, which seems very appropriate for October, and I'm very excited about it. I'm also an indie game designer. You can find any of my games at meganlynnftw.itch.io. I may or may not have a new one coming out tomorrow, so you can keep an eye out for that. Yeah. And what am I going to add to the crab? I think, here we go, because let's make it weird. The crab has like twice as many legs as it should, and it shouldn't, and it, like, when you look at it, it shouldn't be able to walk without like tripping over all of its legs, but somehow it does. Like you look at it and you're like, there's no way this thing can move, but it does move, and it moves faster than you want it to.
Oh, that's
Is it like
disturbing.
centipede
It's
legs?
yeah, they're
or
like it's like in between where like the normal crab legs would be.
Oh.
We're gonna
So.
summon our god to fight that thing. Like this game just ends with like a kaiju fight.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone for hanging out with us. And until next time, just stay unprepared. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.